Hello, welcome to another live Q&A. This one is Christmas themed, so I thought that people might want some advice on what board games to buy people for Christmas. It's a question that I've been answering for a few friends here and there, and so I just thought that would be a good subject matter, but also feel free to ask any other questions. I'm just going to check that I've got it all set up, so bear with me. I'm going to post it around. Need to get better at this. Hello. Okay. Hi, Matt. Audio's working. Okay. 15 people are. Hi, Chris. Okay. I'm ready for. Oh, I got sound coming through. That's bad. Okay. Hi, Matt. Sweet. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit late for those of you who were expecting it at 4. I'm just going to post it quickly. Okay. It's on Twitter. There's got to be a better way to do this. Right, I'll kick things off. There was a question I had on over on Patreon. They were asking about gifts for family, and it was looking for a game to share with family members who are loath to try games with lots of rules. Sushi Go Party or Ticket to Ride seem to be the comfortable complexity level. Any suggestions? Thanks for the entertaining videos and many suggestions / reviews. Yeah, I think generally people that hate rules, I think it's good to have a game that where you pretty much like every turn you've only got a few options. So I think Carcassonne's pretty good for that because I mean there's a few rules, but you can kind of teach them as they go, and really you've just got a tile and it's fairly obvious where you can put it, and I quite like Carcassonne for that. I was actually asking around on Twitter for advice about this kind of game, like a competitive game that's good for 2 to 4 players and doesn't have loads of rules. And for me, there aren't loads. I guess I'm just really picky. But I would say Kokoro that I just put in the Christmas video is a game that I really love. I would recommend that a lot. I think you can play that with almost anyone. So yeah, let me, I might come back to that question with a few more suggestions. But those would be 2 recommendations that come to mind. Okay, my wife loves Castles of Burgundy. I'm looking for something with a little more theme. Any suggestions? That's a tricky one because I've never actually played Castles of Burgundy, so I would be slightly making it up on the spot here. I think, as I understand it, it's dice placement. Is that right? So something with a bit more theme. Well, if you're looking for a strategy game that uses dice, you might want to go with Sagrada, but that's actually going to be lighter than Castles of Burgundy. I know. I suppose the theme isn't. The theme's a bit more interesting and it's a bit more beautiful to look at, but actually doesn't really have much theme in the gameplay. So I possibly, yeah, wouldn't necessarily say that. Does anybody else have good? I mean, if I knew a bit more about Castles of Burgundy, which I feel a bit ashamed that I don't, then maybe I could help you out there. So if anybody has any other suggestions in the comments. How do you get your non-game friends / family members to play board games? Yeah, with great difficulty. I think that sometimes you've got to admit defeat with some people. I think it's just, I mean, certainly with friends, I think it's just about inviting people over, giving them a few chances, trying to make it seem as approachable as possible. You know, maybe kind of have a dinner party, but just play some games at the same time. So there's more to it, more reasons to come around than just the games. You don't just focus it around that. Because I think people who haven't played modern board games can just find it really daunting, and it's, so I think sort of you always have to lure them in with something else, and then and so the promise of good food or drink is most obvious thing. And then just start with really simple. Don't make the mistake of getting them to play your favorite game. I absolutely think, and you know, and you don't even necessarily want to, you know, people might talk about the classic gateway games like Pandemic or like Ticket to Ride, but you know your friends better than anyone else. So you absolutely need to cater it to them. And if they, for example, are scared of diseases or they wouldn't work well in a team, then don't play Pandemic with them. And they might, Ticket to Ride might seem really boring and dull because it's about trains, and they might find something else way more interesting. As for family, I think at Christmas I found is quite a good time, and you just got to start with something really simple like party games, and then I think there are almost like games that I wouldn't even say they're like full board games. I think there's a real difference, and that's kind of why I was talking about one of the reasons that I just released the couch video was because last year at Christmas, pretty much the only board games that I played with my family and with my girlfriend's family was on a sofa. And because that's just where you are, you're watching TV, or that's the room that everyone kind of congregates in. And so to persuade everyone to maybe move rooms to somewhere with a table where everyone can sit around, that's too much like hard work. So it was great to be able to, and so that's where I played Avenue, and which is now Kokoro, and it just works brilliantly because you are getting to play a proper board game that plays really quickly and has very simple rules, and works with kind of anyone, but you're getting to do it whilst you're sat down, and you can kind of teach everyone whilst the game is going on a little bit as well. There isn't much rules up front with that game, which is just another reason why I think it's such a perfect game. But how do you get your family to do it? I think it's just about making it really simple and easy, and picking a time and just not expecting too much. And that maybe this year, if you get to play a party game or something like Kokoro, then maybe next year, I think it's about having that good experience. I think I had it a couple of years ago where we played Ticket to Ride, and they were like, oh, that was kind of better than I was expecting, or it was easier than I was expecting, or more engaging, or whatever it is. And so then you build on from that, because so many people have such bad, the reason that you're struggling to get them to play is not necessarily because they have something better to do. It's to do with a preconception about what the board game's going to be like. And so, yeah, I think it's about trying to change that, and it happens slowly for most people. Yeah, as Bob says, you have to slowly convert them. Hello, Kabuki Kid. It wouldn't be a Q&A without you. So what else we got? I really enjoyed your guest spot on This Game is Broken. Have they asked you back for future episodes yet? So if you guys haven't listened to it, This Game is Broken is a podcast. It's effectively like a comedy panel show podcast, which is inspired by things like QI and Sorry I Haven't Got a Clue, and all the various British comedy panel shows that you might have seen, Would I Lie to You, stuff like that. 8 out of 10 cats. I won't keep listing them. And Never mind the Buzzcocks. That's one more. And so Dan Hughes, who is over on the Dice Tower, British guy, he hosts it. And then there are two teams with Dave Loser, who these people are all on the Dice Tower. The brothers Murph, who are two brothers, and Matthew Jude, and they do this comedy show where they play lots of simple party games that are somehow around board games, generally sort of trivia related. But for example, they'll do like The Price is Right, but with board game geek rankings. So you have to guess higher or lower. Is Castles of Burgundy higher in the rankings than Agricola, for example? And then they also play like Time's Up with board game titles. And they got a whole bunch of games. And they invited me on for their Christmas special. They also had Eric Summerer on from the Dice Tower podcast. And it was loads of fun. And so if you've never listened to their podcast before, then go and listen to that. I had a great time. And yeah, they did mention having me back on basically after we finish recording. I don't know when that will be. Well, in fact, I don't know if it's confirmed yet, and maybe I'm leaking this, but nobody's watching this, right? They are thinking about doing a live one at the UK Games Expo. And I'm hoping to join them for that, or at least they asked me to, because the American guys that take part obviously won't be there. So that should be really exciting. I'd love to go back on anytime. I'm sort of a little bit gutted that I didn't get involved earlier on, and I'm not a regular part of it, because it was a lot of fun. So yeah, so absolutely check that out if that sounds like your kind of thing. It's kind of almost like board game adjacent. They talk about board games throughout, but there's no reviews. There's not what you'd expect, but but for that reason, it's refreshing and different, and the guys are all really funny and entertaining, and it's nicely edited as well. So it's definitely worth listening to see if it's your kind of thing. Yeah, okay, so some people are recommending dice placement with a theme. So you got Role Player and Kingsburg, and yeah, sorry to say I haven't played any of these. I feel like dice placement is sort of kind of interesting to me, but I just haven't. These are ones that have passed me by so far. Alien Frontiers, that's another one that's an alternative to Castles of Burgundy. Suggestions for light card games I can play with a 9-year-old. Well, it depends a little bit if you're playing just 2 players or more than that. So feel free to mention whether it is 2 or more. But I would go, if I was saying with more, there's so many cool little card games, and usually really cheap as well. Something like Six Nymphed, I really like, or No Thanks. And it's possible that you've played these before. They're all kind of obvious suggestions. I think Sushi Go would work well with the 9-year-old, or Sushi Go Party. I always have to go and check my list of games. I need to have like a crib sheet to go to for certain. It's like when I'm being asked on the spot, suddenly my brain freezes up. And if I was talking about it at board game night, I would have like a million suggestions. I think like those are really obvious ones that I would definitely just jump to because they're so simple, but they've got Bonanza, I think would work well. I mean, it's not something I do often playing with 9-year-olds, so it's possible that I'm underestimating or overestimating their ability, but surely, Cockroach Poker would be great. In fact, any of the, definitely check out any of those. Kids are really great at, there's a whole line of games. So you've got Cockroach Poker, Cockroach Soup, Cockroach Salad, Tarantula Tango, Cheating Moth, and Dodolido. And they all play slightly differently. Some are sort of reaction games where you're having to say the right thing at the right time and not make a mistake. And if you make a mistake, you have to pick up a bunch of cards. Cockroach Poker is a bluffing game. They're all really, really simple. And especially with the reaction games, kids are really good at them, better than adults, because they can think faster. And Cheating Moth is also just, I love it because it's completely different. You're literally having to cheat. You're having to hide cards around your person or around the room whilst the other people don't catch you. Yeah, so all of those games, they're really small boxes and really cheap. I would recommend any of that line. They got kind of quirky artwork as well, which I think kids would like. So yeah, those would be my tips for those things. But if you happen to have played all of those, feel free to ask again. Best game if you're looking for lots of laughter and silliness. Well, that is my kind of game. I think lots of laughter. Monica's is great for that. So Monica's, which I just put in my top 10 couch games, or if you were to play the hat game, because, well, especially when you get to the charades round, that gets like really silly, and the clues that you're having to come up with, and you start to create this language of, and so I've got certain friends that we will always say certain things and they don't really immediately connect for everyone. You almost create in-jokes with that game. And I just think it's hilarious. But there are other silly games that I'm trying to think of. I think if you want like real fast, like almost like silly stress, then Doodle Rush or Pictomania are good, like pacey racing games that get a bit ridiculous. Obama Llama is quite a good one for silliness, where you're having to come up with things that rhyme with each other. And that's got a charades aspect to it as well. Off Your Rocker is a game that I was just going to put in my couch games, but it's not really available everywhere. And it's kind of an improv game almost, but we've just had a great time with it, where one person leaves the room and they are like the psychiatrist. Everyone else reads a card and it tells them how to act. So they become different characters. So one of them might be, oh, you all believe you're superheroes. Or we made up some the other day where we were all different tube stations on the London Underground. And then the psychiatrist comes back in and starts asking questions, and everyone just has to answer in character. And that is whatever you want it to be. And it's just usually just like a lot of fun because everyone's in on the same kind of thing. And the psychiatrist is just like, what the hell is going on with all of you? And they have to, they basically have to ask questions and get to a point where they work out what the rule is. And so you could easily just make that up yourself, come up with good ones whilst the other person's out of the room. But so that's another really silly one. Oh, I thought of one and I've now forgotten it. If you, man, Happy Salmon, definitely. And Happy Salmon, if you've got kids, you need to be playing Happy Salmon. But I mean, I don't, and I play it all the time. Definitely, yeah, if you want laughter and silliness, definitely Happy Salmon. For like, for a slightly more involved silliness, Dungeon Fighter is ridiculous, where you're having to do a dexterity game with all these crazy challenges. You're having to throw dice, but you're having to kind of do it in weird ways, blowing it off your hand or like throwing in all kind of different ways. Blurble is a really good one for where it's like this reaction game and you're having to shout out. You have a card with a picture on it and you have to say another word that starts with the same letter. And that just you always just end up saying, like, you're so desperate to say something, you just say all these made up words. And Big Bazaar that I just talked about in my Now Playing video, most recent one, is another like reaction game. Anomia, definitely. If you want laughter and silliness, get Anomia. It's a really simple reaction game where you're having to shout stuff faster than the other player, and you end up just saying ridiculous nonsense. Because yeah, so all of those games that I just mentioned, all great for that. And and also all those cards. So like Dodolido, you're going to be laughing with those reaction games. Tarantula Tango, those ones. I am slow today. But this is good. Maybe there aren't that many questions, or maybe there are loads. I lost my place. Castles of Burgundy. Okay, as a gateway game with not many rules for 2 to 4. What about Charterstone? Yeah, maybe. I mean, honestly, I haven't started Charterstone yet, so I have no idea. But my only query would be, I just think you don't. You've got to be committed that you know that you like board games, and if you're someone, you're literally playing a game with someone for the first time, then how you have no idea if they will like Charterstone, and then they've you're sort of committing them to it. Or, I mean, of course they could drop out, but I just think there's something about a legacy game that doesn't lend itself to that. Because I think there's absolutely a situation where somebody plays Ticket to Ride for the first time and they were like, I love the idea of playing board games, show me other ones, but actually Ticket to Ride, I didn't like that much. And that, I think there's such a learning process with what people like in those first few games that I just think committing to a legacy game won't work. No, no pun included says, is this an official Scotch Christmas hat? I honestly can't remember where I got this hat from. I think I've had it for like 10 years. Oh, is it like it's like Scotch tape almost. In fact, I've got some Scotch tape here and the tartan looks pretty similar, but I guess it's just tartan, right? Yeah, I have no idea where it's from, but thanks for asking. My girlfriend said I need to get rid of it because it's like in the video, it looks really grubby and horrible. Non-gamers usually want to avoid confrontation, try out co-op games so you can work together. Yeah, I think non-gamers, I think I would always recommend co-op games because it's just something different. But I think there are a lot of people out there that they expect a board game to be competitive. And especially as a lot of guys that I've played with, that they're like, they want to win and they're a bit disappointed to find that they can't win. And so I think it depends on the friend, really. I think some people find co-op games too unusual especially for like a first thing. What is a good game to take to a restaurant or a pub? That's a good question. I'd almost like to do a video about that at some point. Skull, I think, is great for that. You want something with like a really small footprint. That's pretty simple. And Skull's great for, I mean, if you are drinking as well, like it's just a great bluffing game and you've just got a little thing in front of you. I mean, look, most games you can play in a pub. I've played loads of different games in a pub, but I personally have a sort of thing of like, oh, I don't want everyone to stare at us and start like, you get people coming over and asking questions. And I think when it's just like, we played Burgle Brothers in a pub once on St. Patrick's Day and we were playing until like 2 in the morning. And there's just loads of drunk people like coming and asking us. And it's kind of like, I kind of want to talk to them a bit and then you just get a bit bored of it. And I think Burgle Brothers is just, people are dying to ask what's going on because you're covering this whole table. So I wouldn't recommend that necessarily, unless you're brave. So I think just things with a small footprint. So the Chameleon would be great for that. Most kind of party games, again, like I think you want something simple and short. Spyfall would be great for that. Things with kind of short rounds. I mean, look, Codenames is great in a pub, really, but it does take up a bit more table space. I'm going through my list of games again. I think a dexterity game would be kind of good. But again, you are showing yourself up if you do that. Something like it's about the Six Nymphs again. Those filler games, no thanks, absolutely. If you can ever get hold of High Society, I think that's a really cool auction game from Rana Knizia that I found a bit hard to get hold of. For Sale is another one. These are just like my favorite filler games, really. I think Las Vegas would be kind of good, but it's taking up a bit more table space. Yeah, those are some good ones. Coconuts. I don't know. Don't play coconuts in a pub. Hello, John. Have you finally played number 9, or is the closest you got to the game still the meetup when you watched us play? I have actually finally played number 9. It's funny you asked that because I literally played it last night, and I think it's a really cute game. I think it's such a shame that it's in such a ridiculously big box, because I think that number 9 is it's a filler game, really. Like, it's so simple and it's so approachable and the rules are so easy to get into, and yet this box is massive and the pieces, it's just so unnecessary. And I would love it as like I mean, I don't know how small it could get, but I would love it as like a smaller travel game, almost like in a Lost City size box or something. Yeah, I think it's really cool. I don't know, like, because of that size of the box, I just don't know if I'll keep it, because Avenue or Kokoro is a way better game or more interesting to me, and it's in like half the size at least. So I just think that's really silly. But yeah, I think it's a really cool game. I don't know if I'd like play it loads, but I was amazed at how we played it in like 10 minutes. And even then we were kind of chatting the whole time, so you could probably play it in like 5 minutes. I recommend Hive or Mintworks. Yeah, for the pub? Yeah, that would make sense. When introducing games to people, quick games like the Chameleon work well as no one feels pressure. Yeah, well, I was just talking about the Chameleon. Thanks about the video. This game is broken is hilarious. How do you pick a game to give to a friend that likes games but is not fully into them? Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. And I think, okay, well, it depends I mean, you just got to look at the games they like. And I mean, the other day I got asked by someone what game to get someone for Christmas. And I got to look at their BGG list. And so I kind of picked one that was related to what they like. But I'm guessing that your friend who's not fully into them doesn't have a BGG list. I think but the thing is, you don't want to buy something that's identical, because, you know, if somebody is into Sushi Go, I suppose you would get them Sushi Go Party, but don't then buy them like another light hand drafting game, because that's just the same thing. And potentially they'll be like, oh, this is like Sushi Go, but not as good. So you want to buy something of a similar level, I suppose. It's a really tough question to answer that I'm going to skip now. Will you make a top 10 video with your favorite games from 2017? Yeah, I've been thinking about that. And it's, I don't know, because I ran out of time with this Christmas video. And so I would have loved to have done like a Christmas gifts video. And I probably won't now, because it's just going to be too late for people to buy them, especially in America, where you just can't, like, shipping and things, it takes longer. But, well, I assume it does. I don't know. And so, what am I? Just lost my train of thought. And then I realized that I was sort of roughly doing a Christmas gifts list. And then it was kind of like also a top 10 of the year, because I wanted to do gifts. And then it's like, who are these gifts for? Are they for non-gamers? Obviously, I cover a lot of games that would work for non-gamers. But then do I include the ones that might be gifts to yourself? But then I feel like if you're the kind of guy that watches videos, if you're the kind of person who watches videos and you love board games, then you know about all the board games. And me putting a specific, like, let's say I put Clank into a top 10 Christmas gifts because I feel like people should buy themselves Clank. Well, you've hopefully already seen my review or seen everyone else review it. And so it's kind of a bit wasted in that list. So I was having a bit of struggling to understand how I do the list. And then I was thinking, well, if these are all just games of 2017, then why wouldn't I just do a games of 2017 list? But then I'm frustrated by the fact that there are so many games from 2017 that I haven't played yet, and games that I own that I just haven't got around to yet. And so it would feel like such a unfinished list to do it now, or even to do it in a month from now. But then to wait until like March when I've played all of them just feels like, ugh. So I don't know. All these questions come up, and I don't know. There's no perfect time to do it, I suppose. And I just don't have the ability to kind of get all those games played in time. But I will certainly consider it. In fact, I might get up the list now. I mean, you guys, if you want the list, I'll come back to it. I'll do some more questions, but I've got the potential. I've got my sort of faux list. It's really like a list of 20 that I haven't whittled down yet. Have you seen Star Wars yet? No, I have not seen Star Wars yet. And it may horrify you to learn that I've not seen the last Star Wars. And I'm not sure that I've ever seen any of the Star Wars, except for the first one, A New Hope. And I also saw Rogue One. I'm just not really into Star Wars. Please don't leave. Thoughts on the game Photosynthesis? Very quick. Well, you can see my now playing video. So if you just check out the channel, it's probably like in the last few videos, I talk about photosynthesis. I think that it's a cool idea. I think it's got some cool thematic touches. But for me, it was too mean, too long, and too much the same every time you play it, which ended up making it not a good gateway game for me, and not the kind of game that I was really that interested to play. So real shame. Also looks great and really cool theme. But yeah, it wasn't for me. But you know, it is for a lot of people. So don't necessarily let that put you off. Hanabi's good with kids. Yeah, and Hanabi is Hanabi, by the way, seeing as we're on these subjects, Hanabi would be great with kids. Hanabi is a great little card game, if that was one of the questions. Hanabi is a great game to play in a pub because it doesn't require too much table space. And I think it's just nice and interactive and keeps everyone kind of engaged because you're having to hold your cards up and look at everyone else's. And I've played that in a pub. I think it's really cool for that. Fuji Flush and Pairs. I never played Fuji Flush, but Pairs is a cool like push your luck game, simple card game, and it's like a tiny box. It's literally a deck of cards, so it's cool for that kind of situation because you can just carry it around. Fake Artist Goes to New York is absolutely a great pub game because it's just a tiny bit of paper and it comes in a tiny box. I feel like I just say the same games to every question, but A Fake Artist Goes to New York is definitely a great pub game. And also Insider or Werewords would be a great pub game because they're small boxes to carry around, but also there's hardly anything going on the table. The only thing with Werewords is because you've got to use the app, you've got to listen to it, and in a noisy pub that can be a bit of an issue, but you there are ways to work around that. It's really not that big of a deal. Okay, Bonanza is 12 plus. Might be difficult. Yeah, fair enough. I don't know these things. Cheating Moth was the name of my prog rock band in college. What, inspired by the game or? I may have asked this before, but are you going to be attending AirCon in March? No, well, not currently. And it's just a money thing, really. I don't have a lot of money, and I would love to go to AirCon, but the train to Yorkshire and then the hotels, it's just, and it's like conventions. I have to, like, the way I kind of, I tried. More and more I treat actual like I'm trying to make it a sustainable thing, which it isn't really. And conventions don't really add a whole lot in terms of if I'm trying to grow my channel and make it more sustainable, going to a convention just costs me a bunch of money and doesn't really give a whole lot in return in terms of investment in the channel. For me, it'd be an incredibly great time. I'm sure I have an absolute blast. So on a personal thing, it'd be great. And if I had loads of spare cash to be doing a personal, like, you know, just enjoying that weekend, great. I'd go to AirCon. There's a whole bunch of people that I know that are going. I'm sure it's just a whole weekend of gaming. And my dad lives up in Yorkshire. I couldn't stay with him. He's not quite near enough, but maybe I could do like a you know, a whole trip of it kind of thing. But it's just not worth it. Like, I'm not really a vlogger in the sense of like filming at conventions. I just find that a lot of hard work with not much reward. And so, yeah, so I probably won't be going unless my situation dramatically changes. And unfortunately, that applies to other conventions around the UK and possibly even Essen this year. I think I'll go to UK Games Expo, but that's probably about it. And that sucks. I wish I could go to more for sure. Hi, John. Last day of term is coming up at my school, and my classes are 12 to 18-year-olds. Are any of the Jackbox games you recommend in your couch games video age appropriate to play with a class? Ooh, good question. I think so. Yeah, I think I don't remember there being, but I mean, bear in mind with those that most of them kind of cap out at about 8 players. Maybe some go a bit more, but like the good one, well, I say the good ones. The ones that I really like, I think like Drawful is 8 and Fibbage is probably 8 and Quiplash. I think they are. I don't remember there being anything rude. I think the trouble is like with something like Quiplash or Fibbage, they are sometimes like asking for dirty or risque answers. Of course, whether the kids will do that in front of the teacher, I don't know. But the questions themselves, I don't think are bad. I'm sure they have an age rating. I'm sure there's more information about that. I'm sorry that I don't know, but I don't remember any experiences. But yeah, it's just the thing of there being not enough space for everyone to play. I suppose everyone could watch, or you could play in teams, but you can't really play Drawful in teams. I don't know. I think there are better games to play in teams, like Wits and Wagers. I mean, I suppose you're asking about a video game. Wits and Wagers is a good game to play in teams. And there's got to be some others. Like Hive Mind would be quite good in teams, because you could kind of do one answer each and see whether you match with other teams. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So it kind of depends how many people are in your class. I'm guessing there's more than 8. Okay. Hi, Gaz. Sorry if I'm saying hello a bit late. What are some other small card games along the same lines of Hanabi? Well, I mean, they're not that similar, but if you're talking about just being almost the smallest box possible, then it's a shame that I'm not in with my games. But 6 Nymph, I already said, No Thanks. Those are both classics as far as I'm concerned. And then other ones that I would recommend, I'm going to quickly search. Brewcraft as the travel card game is like a 4-player game I really like. Quinto, absolutely recommend Quinto. That's another one that would be great to play in a pub because it's just such a small footprint. I love that game. Definitely my favorite travel game. It's a roll and write game. It's got a few dice and some paper and some pencils. So Quinto is another small box. Council of Verona is kind of a cool game, like basically a micro game with very few cards. There's a bit of kind of bluffing and deduction. I quite like that one. R-Oko or R-Eco, but on Amazon Germany it's R-Oko, O-K-O. And it's quite hard to describe, but it's a surprisingly rich, interesting game for that tiny box. Oh, another one that I really like is called Another one that I like is called Turn the Tide, which in German is called, oh man, what's it called? Damn it. I'm going to look that up. It's a really, it's sort of a bit similar to 6 Nymph. It's weird. I've got quite a few games that play similarly to those games where you've got these number cards, you're trying to get rid of them and you don't want to be punished and it's all about timing as to when you get rid of them. And it's funny that I suppose it's like a clever idea and loads of people have done similar things, but they're all sort of a little bit different. Land Unter is the German title. Yeah, that's a really cool one. It's sort of 4, 5, 6 players. So that's another one. Yeah, those are my top tips for those small boxes. I've got lots of others, but there's sort of none of them like stand out, and I've tried to thin them down a little bit. Like there's things like Wurfel Bonanza, which I think is like a decent game, but I don't find myself coming back to it. And it's a push your luck dice game really, and I just think there are other ones. And just because it's in a small box doesn't mean like you should necessarily keep it or get it or whatever. What's your favorite can't miss board game to give as a gift to introduce folks to the hobby? Apologies if this has been covered, just got here. I think that's really, really hard to decide upon because it really depends on the person. But I don't know. These days, if I was, I think when you're buying a gift, you don't want to spend loads, right? So it doesn't want to be like really expensive. I think I'm not going to massively say anything that you guys haven't heard of, but when I have people around that have not played games before, I tend to go for like almost like things that I would consider a bit more than a filler game, but aren't necessarily a full filler game. So, and my favorites tend to be Las Vegas. I think Las Vegas is a brilliant dice game. I talk about it in my top 10 games to play at Christmas 2 years ago. And I just think it's exciting. Everyone gets invested in it. It's really competitive without being mean, plays really quickly. Everyone gets it. And it's easy for new people to get into and often win. And Sushi Go is another one that I think doesn't always work, but I think generally I've had it work really well, and I've had people like come around and play it and then they immediately buy it the next day. And I think that's in a similar category. It's not mean, it's competitive. I think often it's nice for them to kind of win or get close to winning, and that's what a cooperative game doesn't achieve. But often when I'm recommending to people, I'm not playing it with them. I'm not like curating a night for them. I would go for something a bit bigger, something you can really get your teeth stuck into, because they're only going to buy one game, right? And that's the thing, is like Las Vegas is a great game, but I can't imagine that anyone's played that as many times as somebody has played Ticket to Ride, because I think Ticket to Ride or Pandemic are a bit more addictive because they're a little bit longer and a bit more involved. And so look, it's nothing. They're the most obvious suggestions in the world. But somebody literally asked me this the other day. They'd never really played a modern board game. What do you recommend? Pandemic is always my first recommendation, and then close behind is Ticket to Ride, which I don't think is, for me, like a perfect game necessarily anymore, but I think it's great for newbies, and I think it's fun for the sort of first 10 plays, and then they can move on to something else, or you can buy them a more interesting game next Christmas, things like that. So yeah, I think those ones, and it's a shame. I kind of wish that there were other ones. Like I think that Dream Home is a really cool gateway game. This has amazing artwork and really nice theme, and it's super easy to get into. But it doesn't have like that tiny X factor it doesn't have enough bite to it, I think. Whereas Ticket to Ride is that bit more competitive, and Las Vegas is more competitive. So I think Dream Home would be great for maybe like 50% of people or more than that. But you almost can't beat like Ticket to Ride is a classic gateway game for a reason, and Carcassonne as well to some extent. I'm not going to keep talking about that. Thanks. I'm glad you loved the couch games video. Yeah, you're right about the Jackbox, that somebody would need. They would all need smartphones. So that is a major issue with that in terms of playing at school. What game have you found the most interesting but the least fun? Wow. That's a good question. I don't know if that really connects for me massively. I don't know that I find games interesting but not fun. Like I could understand why some people might find like This War of Mine interesting but not fun, but I find it fun in, I'm not going to go into how I would describe that, but generally I think if a game bores me, then I don't find it that interesting. I think something like Twilight Struggle, I was interested in at the start and I was sort of fascinated by the idea of it, but then I play it and it isn't interesting to me anymore. And I realized that whilst the history of it would be interesting to me and wrapped up in an interesting TV show or film or book, or a game that I found fun, then it's interesting. But because it wasn't fun for me, it wasn't interesting. So I'm sorry if I'm sort of slight cop out there. I mean, you could reword it and I might answer differently, but I think, unless you mean the game that was sort of most interesting, I was most excited about, but that's another question. Possibly, I'm reading too much into it. Blow the dice off you. Oh no, simplified version of Happy Salmon with a 3-year-old nephew. It went from pound it and high five to let's bend the cards really bad. Not cool, man. My 7-year-old has beaten me in Dice Forge, and my 5-year-old has beaten me King Domino. Is all hope lost? Well, that is great. That is really cool, because I don't, like I say, I don't have great reference points for that. King Domino, I think, is like super simple, but I'm impressed that a 7-year-old is like getting on with Dice Forge. I guess it makes sense. I don't know these things. Have you bought games as Christmas presents this year? Well, hopefully nobody's watching this. This is very embarrassing to say because I'm usually quite good at this, but I don't think I've bought a single Christmas present yet. But I will be buying maybe like one board game for a Christmas present. And I don't know what that is yet. I haven't really thought about it. So this Christmas, no. I've done it more so in the past. But it's always hard to know, because just like with any Christmas present, really, it's like you give it to someone and they're sort of excited at the time, and then did they play it? Did they never sort of mention playing it? And if you don't play it with them, yeah, was it a waste of money? And do they regret? So unless I sort of then get a positive response later, I probably wouldn't do it again for the same person, at which point you've sort of used up all your family members or friends to give board games to. But my brother-in-law, I bought him games in the past. So I don't know if it was last year, but I think I bought like a bunch of small, I think I bought 6 Nimmt and maybe Quinto and Cockroach Poker, and I think they all went down well, or at least 1 or 2 of them did. And so yeah, that's really cool when like you get reports of it like going well, and yeah, that's great. So but I will, but I probably won't get like for everyone by any stretch. And that's really just the type of people I'm buying for. Good games for playing in restaurants whilst waiting for meals. Oh, well, you might want to check out, and this kind of applies to the pub games as well, is the Paco games, these tiny chewing gum sized games with these little thin cards in. They're not all amazing, and I had sort of promised myself that I would review them all, but I just haven't had a chance to play them all. I've played sort of maybe half of them, and some are a lot better than others. And some of the ones I would recommend, I like and I like, I think Orc is quite good, and Boo was interesting, and Lie is okay if you like a bluffing thing, and Dig is good, and I can't remember them all now. Hugh is all right. Some are better than others, but I think they play really quickly, and they're just in such a tiny box. So I think they are great for playing in restaurants whilst waiting for a meal. The thing is like you order a meal, and sometimes it can turn out really quickly, and then you just kind of clear it all away. So you kind of want something with no footprint. I mean, assuming that you're only going to a restaurant with sort of 1 or maybe a few people, you can't play something like the Chameleon or Spyfall, because you need more people for that. But they would be great for that. Skull, I think, is great. In fact, I've played Skull in a in an Indian restaurant waiting for a meal at like 1 a.m, and it worked really well. And because we could basically just set it aside and come back to it when the food turned up, and and then after we finished. Yeah, I think Hive would be good for that. Mr. Jack Pocket, yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that kids all have smartphones, yeah. Star Team. Do you mean Space Team? Yeah, Space Team is a really good app for, I wouldn't play it in a restaurant or a pub even. Be good for kids with smartphones at the last day of school or whatever. It's free. Absolutely check out Space Team. It's a crazy, like, you're just shouting at each other, working cooperatively. It's best to just experience it because it's so just check it out. Do you have a top 3 for best kids games, 7+ that you can think about on the top of your head? Well, as I said, I'm not brilliant at knowing what's good for kids, because, well, look, I just heard that 7-year-olds can play Dice Forge. So, I'm going to sound like a broken record if I say Sushi Go again. So I'm desperately trying to get my list of board games up to try and think of something else. Anomia that I mentioned before. I mean, I don't have a top 3 because it's not something that I've planned yet. Like, I haven't made a list of that. I think Big Bazaar would be great with kids. Look at me going alphabetical order. Camel Up would definitely be great with kids. All those ones I mentioned earlier in the video, Cockroach Poker, Cockroach Soup, Dodolido, all of those ones. I love like some dexterity games like Rhino Hero. Go Cuckoo is another dexterity one that I think would be great with them. Or Junkart. It's expensive, but it's amazing. If you got loads of people, something like Telestrations or Word Slam. Yeah. Okay. Back to the questions. What was your worst board game present you ever received? I haven't received that many recently. I'm just going to check that people can still hear me. Wow, I can't even. Yeah, nobody seems to be. Yeah, fine. The worst, yeah, I haven't received many games as presents, and honestly, most of the ones I have received, I had asked for or requested or whatever. So there was one time when I was given a chess, one of those chess sets that's made of shot glasses. So the idea was that, oh, you like to drink and you like to play board games, so you'll love a chess set of shot glasses. And yeah, and maybe that would have been something I would have liked when I was at university, but I was like, this was only a few years ago, and I just had no interest in doing that. So it went to the charity shop, unfortunately. So that has to win the prize for that. But honestly, I don't think I've ever had received a bad game other than that. So, which is better, Chameleon, Insider, Werewords? Good question. That I have a hard time to answer. Personally, I think the Werewords is better than Insider, because I think it's more interesting having someone that's trying to throw the group off and someone that's trying to help the group. I think that the app makes it better. I think that answering the questions with the tokens, yes or no, makes it better. I think it's just been a bit more thought through. And the different difficulty of words in the app, I think all of those things make it better. But Insider is a nice small box. That's basically all it has going for it, and that it was the original game. Chameleon versus Werewords, I think I like them both. And even though they sort of seem similar, I don't think they really are. Chameleon is like, you're better off comparing Chameleon to Spyfall or Fake Artist. That's what it's kind of close to. And I think, yeah, they just feel like different experiences. Werewords is 20 questions. Chameleon is saying one word that you're trying to fit in and you don't want to get spotted. And I don't know which I prefer, because I really like both of them, but I've had a lot of different players have mixed reactions to both of them. And I think Chameleon is a game that would really benefit from the same group playing again and again. I also play with quite a few people where English isn't their first language, and Chameleon is a bit tricky for that. And Werewords is a bit tricky for that. So I'm not necessarily the best person to ask. I think Chameleon, yeah, would really, like, you'd start to really create like a meta thing of, you'd get really good at it. And so you'd have to get really clever with your clues. And so if you're the kind of person that plays with the same sort of 6 to 8 people all the time, then Chameleon would be amazing. I think Werewords is kind of, can be good in short bursts. But really with both of them, you play like you're going to play like 4 or 5 times in a row. But Chameleon, I often find if you're playing with new people, the first game is kind of a mess, because people just like, I don't know, maybe I'm bad at teaching it, but I've just played with some, I hope he doesn't watch this. I played with a guy the other day who, we're playing Chameleon, and I taught the rules. I swear everyone was listening. And then we got 2 games in, and he didn't realize that the words on the grid in the center were all connected. He was giving a clue. We were doing authors, and his clue was story. And it was only that he'd only looked at the word that we were talking about, which was Stephen King, and he hadn't realized that the whole other grid was all authors, and it says authors at the top. Wow, that was special. Yeah, I have to be forgiving. What is your favorite Christmas film, and why is it Die Hard? It is not Die Hard. I don't know what my favorite is, but my top 5 would be Home Alone, Love Actually, Elf, Muppets Christmas Carol, and Bad Santa. And I think they're all brilliant, and I love them. And I used to watch them every year, but then I sort of got a bit tired of, I felt like I was getting diminishing returns of, like, I was almost spoiling myself. And so now I kind of leave gaps and I don't watch them all every year. But those are the top 5. And then number 6 would be Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. No. Wow, I am so far behind. What? They're talking about Star Wars. God, I'm so sorry. Okay. Oh, no. I don't hate Star Wars. Whoa. Wow. I mean, it's probably too late. You guys have already turned on me, but I don't hate Star Wars. I'm just not interested in Star Wars. There's nothing wrong with it. And I sort of kind of enjoyed Rogue One to some extent. And I like, the trouble is I really like a lot of the actors in Star Wars, the new stuff, but I'm not really that interested in the story. Have you tried Ex Libris or Bunny Kingdom? That's a quick one. No, I haven't. Sorry. But I would like to try. I think I will try them eventually. And I don't own them currently. I played Pairs once and hated it. Interesting. I played Pairs once and got the rules completely wrong and thought it was a terrible game. And then I went back and they were terrible. The rules were really badly written, well, for me. And then I found out, oh, it's actually not a bad game. So maybe you got them wrong as well, but you probably didn't. Sci-fi. I don't hate sci-fi. I like certain sci-fi. I got the Moon poster there, and I love philosophical sci-fi like Ex Machina and Equilibrium, and I also loved Mass Effect, the video game trilogy. Will you ever do a top 10 area control games or 10 alternatives to Risk? Maybe, but probably not, just because I don't know that I've played enough of them to have a top 10. Like there's probably 10 that I like, but then there isn't 10 that I quite like, which is kind of what you need for a top 10, if that makes sense. Alternatives to Risk, I would consider, definitely. But I don't know if the alternatives videos, some of them do better than others. And so, yeah, maybe. Right. Okay. You're all chatting about Star Wars, so I can sort of skip that. Okay. Quiplash can be set to family friendly. That's cool. Do you have the Las Vegas expansion that was only released in Europe? Yes, I do. It's called Las Vegas Boulevard. I think it's great. Yeah, if you have Las Vegas, I think it's a real shame that that isn't out in other countries, because it's not even in the UK either, I don't think. I got it from Germany. I think a lot of it you could do yourself if you bought colored dice, but I think all those extra dice options that it adds, with the bumping dice and the extra white dice and the big dice, all of those are great. And I would pretty much play them all the time. And some of the other things are cool as well. And so I think it's a bit of a shame, because they re-released Las Vegas in like a dice box. And I like the idea of like improving Las Vegas. It's not that pretty of a game, but I don't think that the redone version is any better either. I think like, yeah, I think it lets itself down. It's not appealing enough to look at, but whatever. Hello, love your videos on games for couples. Video. Are there any recent additions to that list? Well, I feel like this happens a lot. There's a top 10 for couples, but there's also 2 other videos that I've made about couples games. So if it sounds like you haven't seen them. If you haven't, please go and check them out. One is called The Dating Games. The other one is called Couples Who Play Together, Stay Together. And there's at least sort of 7 more games on those videos that I would recommend. Onitama is definitely top of that list. I love that game. And there's a few others on there that are good. So if I was to redo the list, a few would come out, and Onitama would definitely come in very high up, and maybe 1 or 2 others. I want to get my parents their first modern board game. They enjoy Suro, Pandemic, Cthulhu, Rumble in the Dungeon, and Machi Koro. Can you suggest something 2 to 4 player that is easy to get into? Thanks. Yeah, it's interesting that they. It's kind of an interesting mix. I think Quadropolis could be really great for 2 to 4 players. It's nice and not mean, and you feel like you've built something. I think Carcassonne is perfect for that level. And it's interesting because you say parents, my mind changes a little bit. Like if you were saying friends, and I'm of course imagining the age of people's friends, I feel like parents might be a bit more forgiving of a slightly more old-fashioned theme or artwork. So whereas I perhaps wouldn't recommend Carcassonne for someone in their 20s or 30s, I wouldn't be as loath to recommend it for parents. I think it's got a nice sedate vibe to it. Can be mean if you want it to be. So that I would recommend. Cottage Garden is a good parent game, but I don't think it's like amazing. But I definitely think it's that right level. Sagrada, I think, could be really good. Because that's just, it's got some like really nice thinkiness to it, but it's it's simple, and yeah, I think that's, if I do say so myself, I think that's a good recommendation. Group question. Oh, okay. Not for me. Thoughts on Munchkin? I've never played it. It doesn't sound like my kind of game, with the way that it can go on forever and kind of swings around. Oh, and there's a lot of bashing the leader and stuff. So I just would never. I would probably never play it based on everything I've heard. But obviously, I never played it, so I can't give a full opinion. Are you interested in Gloomhaven or other big dungeon crawls that are released lately? Generally speaking, no. I don't. After talking about Star Wars, I don't especially like fantasy as a theme. I just got a text from my friend saying that he's offended about my Star Wars remarks. My apologies. Please don't stop watching the channel. Dungeon crawl. I like the idea of them in theory, kind of. I don't really like the fantasy theme of going into a dungeon and killing monsters. It just doesn't do anything for me. But I kind of like the idea of the mechanisms of being some heroes and going around and sort of having to shoot things or kill things. It kind of feels like a video game. But when I've played them, most of them have just been so heavy on rules and complexity, and I would rather something pacey and exciting. And so Star Wars Imperial Assault, oh my God, was that slow and took forever. And look, I only played it once, so that's not a review. But I like Zombicide Black Plague, which is kind of a dungeon crawl. So to get to Gloomhaven, everyone raves about it, and they talk about it in such interesting terms. You know, and you hear someone like Rado talk about it, who I think does a really great job of making you talking about the things that are interesting about a game. And so you've got there's a lot less luck in it. You're using cards for combat, as I understand it, and that it brings on all these new fantasy tropes or characters. You know, it's not just doing the same old thing. So I think that's really appealing. But then, there was a point at which I think I backed the second Gloomhaven Kickstarter, and then I read more about it, and because everyone around me is raving about it, all my kind of peers of like YouTube creators and reviewers and stuff, and Tom Vassell, it's like his favorite game, and Efka's raving about it, and Rado's raving about it, and but I think the more I read about it, I just, there was a couple of comments I saw on Reddit where somebody was saying that you suffer from a lot of AP, I think, and the rules were really complex, and there's a lot of setup. And I knew that it would just annoy me a little too much. So I would definitely play it, but I don't think I could handle the full campaign of it. And I don't know that I would love it. So I'm sort of vaguely interested, but I'm quite happy to sort of carry on for now and not play it and focus on the games that I'm really excited about. Yeah, people are talking about the Grizzled. I think the Grizzled is a fun game, but giving it as a gift to anyone it's a bleak game. So I kind of think you need to know whether they would be into that or not. Okay, thanks. Taking too long to answer questions. Do you have a game that you feel is best value for money? Yeah, I think it's not coming to me. There's definitely some games that I think are like you get a lot for what you pay, and there are some that you definitely don't. And I really wish I could think of them right now. I think sometimes it's games in small boxes. I don't know the price of something like Celestia, but I think that you get a lot in that box. I think something like Codenames is really affordable now, and the amount of times I've played that game is insane. But But in terms of, I mean, how much you get in the box, yeah, I think you get a decent amount. But can you back your project with Ideal? I do not have a credit card. I don't know what Ideal is, I'm afraid. And if you're talking about Patreon, you can do Patreon with PayPal, I believe. I don't know if that helps at all. I'm sorry. Have you looked at the Wilson Wolf Affair? It's like a massive escape room type game with awesome components. I'm so tempted. No, I haven't. Is that on Kickstarter at the moment? That sounds interesting. I'm trying to do less Kickstarters though, because the more Kickstarters I do, the less aircons and things I can go to. Have you tried Whistle Stop? I'm afraid I haven't. It looks vaguely interesting, but I've had like mixed times with pick up and deliver games, which I believe that is. So I've just sort of, that one's passed me by so far. I don't want to get bored while playing and want to engage new players. Is Forbidden Desert a good recommendation? I already own Codenames. Yeah, I think Forbidden Desert is a good recommend. Hey, I'm at the bottom. All these people complain I take too long to answer questions. Or maybe I skipped a whole bunch. Oh dear. Yeah, I think Forbidden Desert is engaging enough. I think something like Stockpile is good for new players, but still keeps me interested. Like I still have a great time every time I play that game. Whereas, yeah, you might find that you're a bit done with Ticket to Ride, and you don't want to, yeah, always have to play like games that are right for them but not right for you. But I think Forbidden Desert fits nicely. Oh, by the way, talking about value for games, I think Game Right games tend to be really good value for money. So Sushi Go is great value. Sushi Go Party is even better value for what you get in there. And then Forbidden Island and Forbidden Desert, they come in those annoying tins, which I think just are annoying. But yeah, those are all really good value for money. Are you still positive about Seventh Continent now you played it longer? So I'm pretty sure I never played it after I talked about it. Or maybe I did play it. No, I think I played it once. I'm still completely undecided on Seventh Continent. And I decided I just wanted a break from it, which is probably not a positive thing. It was too long, that first thing. And oh, great. I've got a phone call. All right. I'm just going to get that. Hold on. Okay, apologies. Sorry for that. I'm just trying to put my phone on silent so it doesn't happen again. Okay, sorry. Back to the questions. Oh yeah, so Seventh Continent. Yeah, if somebody was saying, do you recommend Seventh Continent? I would say not necessarily. I think the first scenario is way too long, and I think the game has loads of cool things about it, but I almost wish that somebody else would take all those cool ideas and make something tighter. It's a really complicated discussion, but I think it's amazing in loads of ways, but then also got some real problems. And maybe a shorter scenario will fix a lot of that, and I will try it again, but not for a long time probably, because there's just so many other great games to play. Did I back Witch and Wages Vegas? Yes, I did. And I played it. It was complicated because it was only US that you could get it delivered to. And so I managed to get someone that was someone that watches the channel to someone that watches the channel to take delivery of it, and then they're moving to the UK next year and they're going to bring it. But in the meantime, Bruce at North Star, he brought a copy of it to Essen for me, or at least the mat, and I got to play it the other day, and it's great. I love Wits and Wages. It doesn't add loads, but I think the playmat is really lovely, and the couple of things that it does add, I think are really cool, and I think it's just the best experience of that game. And yeah, so I'm just pleased with it. Yeah. Are you going to aircon, John? I'm not, as I previously described. Currently, I'm not because of financial. Just can't afford the hotel and the trains. But I would love to. I'm sure it'll be great. Especially with Rodney being there as well, of course. Rodney from Watch It Played. Like, I got to meet him at Essen, but we chatted for like a very short amount of time. I'd love to play a game with him, and like that would be amazing. Do you use the advanced board or character cards with stockpile? Yes, generally. The last time I played it, I did. I think the board is a lot easier to go with, but I think the board makes it more interesting, but it also means it's a little bit. It means it's a little bit harder, like for a new person. Like you can kind of get screwed a little bit by the way the different stocks fluctuate or act. And I think the character cards are cool. It adds a little bit more setup and stuff. And so maybe with like all newbies, I wouldn't do it. But last time, I think it was all newbies and I did it anyway. And then I've also got the expansion. I played with those dice and I think they're pretty cool. Where, again, it's like a little bit more admin each round because you've got to add in the right cards. But I think it's worth it. I haven't played with some of the other stuff that the expansion adds yet. Because I just haven't played it that much, but I still think it's an amazing game. Have you played the exit games? We played all of them, totally loved them. Yes, I have. I love the exit games. They would definitely be on my top 10 Christmas gifts thing. I think they're awesome. I think they're my favorite escape room style. I've played the Abandoned Cabin and the Secret Lab, and I'm sort of kind of saving the third one. Of course, now there's 3 more out. So I hope to get those. And yeah, I think the 2 that I played were awesome. And I've played all 3 of the first Unlock batch. And I think they're all fun too, but I prefer Exit. And I haven't played the Deckscape ones. I'd like to try those. And I haven't played any others. I'd really like to try the virtual reality one that's going to be out. I don't know if it's... I'm pretty sure it's not out in the UK, but that looks awesome. And that whole series, I'd love to try those. But when do we meet your rapping cousin? Yeah, there's been a bit of a delay on the new character J-Lol or Jamie. He's coming. That would be in January. Basically, it just got pushed back for a couple of reasons, but mostly because of the Christmas video. Obviously, the Christmas video has to come out at Christmas, whereas this video doesn't. So, like 95% certain that will be the next sort of big actual video, but it's ambitious, so it might take a while. But I'm really excited about it because I think that just some of the stuff that I've done for it, I'm just pleased with. So I don't want to give away too much, but I hope that you guys like it. It's a bit different, but if you like actual videos, you probably like it. Spend money on A, new games, B, expansions, C, events, conferences. Any thoughts? Yeah, that is a big question because I think if you were talking to someone that researches happiness or whatever, they might say that it's all about experiences. And I think absolutely the time at the UK Games Expo and Essen, they're like some of the best times of this year for me. And a board game, can it provide that? Well, I guess why we play board games is that they do provide experiences. But if you've already got a whole bunch, do you necessarily need new ones? I would say that expansions are definitely low on that list. I tend to buy expansions for games that I love, and then I never get around to playing them because I'm always playing new stuff. And that's partly because I have a YouTube channel, so it may be different for other people. But there are expansions that I bought like 2 or 3 years ago that I still haven't played. But it's kind of like you get a bit hooked in by this industry where you're worried that things will go out of print and then you'll never be able to get them again. So you want that expansion now because in 20 years' time, or more than that when I've retired and I've got all the best board games in the world and I'm going back through them all and playing them. I want the content that I don't want to have not missed out on them, which is crazy, but whatever. So I think that maybe you should put events ahead of stuff, but of course they're really expensive, and hotels and trains and flights in America. This is hundreds of pounds that, you know, whereas a new game is what, like 20 quid maybe, or 40 quid. So people are phoning to yell about Star Wars. Thankfully not. Although, I mean, I hung up on them because what are your girlfriend's favorite games? I think that she doesn't, like, if she was to be asked, she kind of struggles with that question. I think she really likes Las Vegas. She really likes Pandemic. She really likes Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. Thankfully, these are all games that I really like. I think she likes Sushi Go a lot. Just to say that for like the 100th time in this video. She likes pretty much all the couples. I mean, all of the couples games that I've covered. I mean, I guess that's kind of obvious. So outside of that, I'm just kind of having a quick look through. She likes New York Slice. I think she quite likes Pursuit of Happiness. She likes Avenue or Kokoro. Time Stories, I think she really likes. She likes the exit games and the unlock games, because we do escape rooms occasionally, and she really likes those. So yeah, those are a bunch. I think Telestrations would be in like her top 5. She loves drawing games, and Telestrations would be her favorite. And yeah, so yeah, those are quite a few. Following your videos, I already got Sons of Anarchy, Champions of Midgard, Clank in Space, Codename Zombicide, Dead of Winter, love them all. Which one should I get next according to that taste? Okay, well, I'm glad you loved them all. That's great. Looking at those, I mean, it's a little bit of a mix. It looks like you like stuff with kind of a good bit of theme to it. If you like Sons of Anarchy, then, and you like the negotiation aspect of that, then I would absolutely suggest Spartacus is a really good spectacle game from the same company. With, it's got a nice theme to it, but it's all about the interaction. I really like that game. And I've never talked about it in a video, which is a real shame. And along the similar lines, Lords of Vegas, which I talked about in my Monopoly video, is another like really great negotiation game. And yeah, I would just really recommend that. I just saw my friend Chris say big up the Brock, which is the college that we went to a long time ago. What was I saying? Spartacus and, oh my God. Yeah, Lords of Vegas for negotiation games. And then if you like Dead of Winter, then you might want to, I don't know, I don't want to suggest games that are like really similar. I mean, those are all just like great games. And I almost think you need something else in your lineup that's kind of vaguely along similar lines. Do you like cooperative games? None of those are cooperative, except Dead of Winter sort of kind of, oh, Zombicide is. Robinson Crusoe, I think, is a cool game. The rules are a slog, but I think once you get into it, like, it's got a real rich theme to it. I need a list in front of me. Oh, you don't, according to your list, at least, you don't have a hidden movement game. So you might, well, you could check out my list on that, but you might like Letters from Whitechapel, Fury of Dracula is a bit richer and longer. Letters from Whitechapel, there's now Whitehall, which I just played the other day. I'm a bit undecided about which I like more, but it's certainly shorter. I would definitely recommend, if you've never played one of those, it's a completely new experience to have a hidden movement game. So I think you like that would be one that I would add to the collection. Yeah. What game in your shelf do you want to play the most? What unplayed game in your shelf is the most interesting? What game in my shelf do I want to play the most? I mean, it's usually the one that I haven't played. So if I was to just look at right now at my list of games that I want to play, I can try and tell you that. I think I would really like to have another great experience of Untold Adventures Await, which is that story RPG thing, but it's a hard one to get the right group for. I've had for so long Rex, Final Days of an Empire, which is the retheme of June, and I've not played it in years, and also Kremlin. These are both sort of negotiation games, and I love negotiation games. So if those are sort of two games on my list that I probably won't play for ages, but I still would love to play. But because I don't need to review them, I'm kind of put them off a little bit, and they're a little bit hard to get to the table. I got the Kickstarter for 878 Vikings Invasion of England. So I'm excited to try that one out. That's definitely up there. So in terms of, I suppose those are the games that are most interesting. I've got Legacy of Dragonholt on my shelf to play that I'm sort of intrigued by. That's like a choose your own adventure story thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to like that one, but I really wanted to try it because I think I might do. I love Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and I like the idea of a rich story and something that's all about the story in the way that Near and Far wasn't. So that's another one that I would kind of give a shout out to. Can recommend Exit Orient Express. It's the newest one here and the best one. That sounds like a really cool theme. So yeah, well, not that the Exit themes really mean a whole lot, but yeah, I look forward to trying that one out. I'm loving that they just keep producing them. Any experience with Nemo's War? I'm afraid not. How many hours start to finish to create your last Christmas video? A lot. Honestly, I don't know. And almost if I was to count it up, it would be a bit miserable, but probably something in a range of 7 full days, maybe 8, like a lot of time to write it. And then it took me a couple of days to film it. And then editing is the worst. It took like 3.5 days, but then, yeah, a long time. It's not, this is why I was talking earlier about making the channel sustainable, and it's not really sustainable. I don't know that I can keep doing that forever, but I'm not going to go into that right now. What about the character? What about the character everybody has in their gaming group? The horrible loser, but even more horrible winner. What do you mean to add to my videos? Characters? Well, the Pandemic Legacy character from the song is kind of like that. I'd certainly got ideas for more characters to bring in. Why did I go for actual lol over actual lol with 2 L's? It's funny. I don't know if it was you that mentioned that on Reddit. I don't know. This was a word that me and my friend Phil were using 10 years ago, if not more, like when we used to chat online. And it's just how we spelt it. And I think it's just like, it's a portmanteau. So you get rid of the unnecessary extra L. But I know that people say that I say it wrong. I mean, I don't know. Do you have a favorite Kickstarter at the moment? Honestly, I have been off Kickstarter. I mean, I think Kickstarter dies around this time because it's Christmas. So I guess I could tell you about one that I've got back that hasn't arrived yet that I would be most excited about, because I don't think there's really much going on at the moment that that's that interesting. And I'm really trying to not back them. So ones that I'm excited to get are Someone Has Died, which is a sort of party creative game about you're doing like a will arbitration. That just sounds like a whole load of fun. And weirdly, a game that's very similar called News at 11, where you're doing a news thing. And then Hardback, which is the sequel or prequel to Paperback, which is and then Rising Sun and Dinosaur Island. So I mean, sorry, my pen just went over. Yeah, so those are some of the ones I'm excited about. Are quid and pounds the same thing? Yeah. Am I mixing the two? Yeah, so 2 quid is £2. New York Slice has a pizza with 11 slices, which isn't possible. There goes my immersion. That is, I never thought of it. Like, I'd never noticed that. That's brilliant. Is it not possible? I'm not going to work out whether it is or not. Somebody else work that out. How much, or is it where if you put them all together, it creates more than one pizza? Is that what you're saying? How much money do we have to give you to get a new song? Well, there's a very specific amount of money because if you go onto my Patreon page, there's a goal to reach. And admittedly, I haven't had a chance to complete the other goals yet, which I, by the way, am definitely planning to do. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Got a bit confused by my own website there. So the goal to reach to get a new song is $1,500 a month. So we're basically $200 away from that. And it unfortunately hasn't been growing a lot lately. In fact, it's been going down. But that would be the goal. And I actually have a song in mind. I have the idea for a song. It's going to take a fair bit of work because it's going to require someone to arrange the music. I'm going to have to try and find someone who will not compose the music. I won't go into it, but I think it's a really cool idea. I think it will be a really great song, but yeah, basically I'm going to have to pay someone to do it. So I'm waiting to reach that goal. So that's basically the answer to that question. Hey John, thanks so much for the videos. What are you looking forward to playing most over Christmas? Kind of the ones that are in that video a little bit. I'm actually staying in London. It's just me and my girlfriend for Christmas, so probably be playing Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and then, as I just mentioned, Legacy of Dragonholt, and then of course it's just going to be 2-player games. So I don't have loads of 2-player games that like to get played, as it were. So it would be older stuff, really. Shadows in Kyoto is one I picked up at Essen that I haven't played yet, and that's 2 players. So yeah, Indian Summer I haven't played yet. That's the new Uwe Rosenberg Polyominoes thing. So yeah, I think those ones really. Like, I haven't got loads of exciting new 2-player games. But I mean that's just. I think there hasn't been loads that have excited me, or maybe I've played them. So maybe we'll play some Santorini and Sagrada, any of the stuff in my couples videos, really. Probably some Onitama. Only game my parents play with my wife and I is Sequence. What's a better game? 2 versus 2 besides Sequence. Some strategy, not a ton of thinking, doesn't look too complicated. I don't actually know Sequence. Team play would be a good one. And that's another one for the small box card games that we were talking about earlier, like Hanabi. Because you play in teams, so 2 teams of 2, and it's just a very simple card game with numbers and colors and very simple rules. I understand that there's a Ticket to Ride map or version that you can play teams. I've not actually done that. Oh man, I do love team games, but I'm blanking on. There aren't that many good ones that are sort of like a relaxed game. You know, there's a few like Captain Sonar that are like party games or like kind of stressful games. Oh man, can anyone recommend any? I feel like there's one I'm missing. I would love there to be more good team games. I really think it's. Possibly a little bit too involved for what you're saying, although they are pretty approachable, are the games from Academy Games, these light war games. So the one that you might get is 1775 Rebellion, or 1776 Rebellion. Sorry for getting that wrong, or whichever it is. And it's 2 versus 2. And Invasion of Canada that I have is 3 versus 2. And then the new one, the Vikings one, I believe is also 2 versus 2. and they're just very simple, almost a bit like Memoir 44. You play some cards, you roll some dice. And so if that sounds like your kind of thing, I think they're good as team games. Ooh, Kabuki Kid talking about how great Kremlin and June are. Yeah. Hunt for the Ring is a hidden movement game that I'm not really into Lord of the Rings, just to win more fans. But I always like the sound of hidden movement games, so I would like to try it sometime. Oh, Goths! I just saw Goths save the Queen. That's a good two-player team game. Very simple and light, like 20-minute game where it and much like team play, really, it's about the communication. Can you read your teammate's mind? And I like it. So yeah, you might try that. It's called Goths Save the Queen, and it's from the people that did Magic Maze. Castles or Palaces of Mad King Ludwig. I've not played Palaces, and I've not even played Castles properly, only on the app. So sorry, can't really give an answer. When is the creepy teacher making a comeback in your videos? I don't know. I quite like that character, but it had a place in that video, in the Pictionary video this is, and I don't know if it would have a place in other ones. So I don't know if other people like that character either. Do you care more about theme or mechanics in a game? It's a tricky one, because I think generally I would have said that I care more about theme, but if the mechanics are terrible, then it's a bad game, and then there's no point. So I've played loads of games or bought games because I love the theme, and then I play it and it's immediately like, getting rid of this, I'm never going to play this again. So the mechanisms are super important. And then there are, of course, games like filler games or light games that I like that have no theme, and I still love them. So I suppose mechanics are more important. But really what I want are thematic mechanics, and that is the pinnacle of an interesting, great game for me. So something like New Angeli is where the thing that you're doing in the game, it really comes out in what your interactions with the other players and stuff like that. And I just, I love that. And so you can go through pretty much all my videos, and I repeat the same point when it comes to bigger board games. So something like Dead of Winter, Sons of Anarchy, Clank, all of these games and all the games that I love have thematic mechanics. And so it's about the combination. Pizza is always an even number of slices. Yeah, I don't know. Is it? I guess. I guess if you cut across the middle, but you could be annoying. And anyway, toilet paper, roll off the top or off the bottom? Definitely off the top. I'm not crazy. Biceps versus triceps. I don't know. I don't even necessarily think I know what a tricep, where the tricep is. So let's say biceps. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so Goth Save the Queen definitely would back that. Do you prefer Cottage Garden or Baron Park or Patchwork? I prefer Patchwork. I haven't played Baron Park, and that is definitely climbed to the top of a game that I need to try and get hold of and play, because I keep hearing sort of good things. When it first came out, I was sort of, it seemed a bit lukewarm, and I was trying to read everyone else as to whether it would be right for me, and I passed it, but I let it pass me by, because Cottage Garden, I wasn't like quite there for me. So I haven't played it. What games, giving the right conditions, would you always bring to the table? In other words, games you'll never get bored to play and replay. I think for me, there almost isn't a game like that. I would get bored of anything. I love variety, which is kind of why I have a big collection and why I think I'm doing these videos is kind of works for me. I'm not the kind of person that plays a game loads and loads and loads, but obviously there are some games that I've played lots more than others. And so I guess something like Codenames, I would almost not get bored of, but I definitely do get bored of it. Because it's always a different challenge, and I always just get excited to try and be good at it. And so yeah, Codenames. Another one isn't coming to me right now, because I think even certain other games, yeah, I would just. Oh, we've got some spam. Thank you, Kabuki Kid, for sorting that, dispatching that. Codenames can be 2 versus 2. Yeah, if you get Codenames Duet and yeah, Ticket to Ride Asia. Yeah, I think Codenames Duet 2 versus 2 is quite good. Yeah, I quite enjoy playing that team as a team game. The only thing being that you just kind of have to whisper to each other. Oh, also, I mean, don't rule out team party games. Like, I think Word Slam is fun at 4 players, and I think Crosstalk is good at 4 players. But it might be that you think that's not right for your parents. I don't know. Concept. I don't know. Are you asking a question, Concept? Concept's a great game, if that's what you're asking. Or maybe it's the team thing. I like Concept, though. We haven't had any games that have been particularly exciting. Yeah, I kind of know what you mean a bit. I don't know if people play. I like Concept when you play 2 people giving the clue, which is what they recommend, because I think one person on their own can sometimes slow it down a lot. I was thinking about, this is a bit ridiculous, but trying to play Concept on 2 teams, like with Word Slam, with 2 separate boards where you're racing against each other, because I think Word Slam almost solves the excitement problem that you might have with Concept, because it puts that pressure on you. In Concept, there isn't that pressure, and so yeah. What else do you hate? Star Trek, Firefly, Doctor Who, Battlestar Galactica. Well, I really like Battlestar Galactica, so that's one that I can say that I like. Unfortunately, I don't hate, but I don't like Star Trek. I have no interest in it. I watched the first 2 kind of recent films with Chris Pine, and I thought they were okay as like action films, but I'm not really into action films that much. Firefly, I also don't really like. And again, I like a lot of the actors in that. And then Doctor Who I don't like either, although I've sort of barely given it a chance, but I just find it so sort of low budget and it just makes me cringe. I've watched all of Firefly, by the way. I watched the whole series, which I can't really say for Star Trek or Doctor Who. And obviously being like a British person, I'm a bit embarrassed, but Battlestar Galactica, I watched the whole thing, really like that. And in terms of other geeky stuff, there isn't loads, but I love Game of Thrones. And like I said, like certain sci-fi films. And yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, you need a complete list. Yeah, sorry. You could almost imagine that I don't like most of the things that most people like. I'm not really into superhero films. I've watched like a lot of them. I used to have a job where I would watch TV like whilst I was doing it, and I've watched a lot of the ones that are on Netflix, and I like the entertainment factor of some of them. Like, you know, Robert Downey Jr. is really entertaining as Tony Stark, and I think often they're like very well written. They've got some like good jokes and there's good comic timing and stuff like that. And I just don't care about the action, and I don't massively care about the kind of mythos or the world. But if there's a good human story to it, then that's sort of a bit more appealing. And I'm not sure I've ever really had that with a superhero film, but some are better than others. So like Guardians of the Galaxy I quite like because it's really funny and Chris Pratt's entertaining. And then it's got like the sweet stuff, like the kind of sad stuff to it. But I could just lose the rest of it. Do you do all the video work yourself, or do you have other people that you work with? For my videos, I do everything myself, except occasionally my girlfriend might help me, like pointing the camera, and she helps me. Like she gives me feedback on like the script, and she gives me feedback on the edit to help me pick clips and things like that. But in terms of like the hard work of like writing it and filming it and editing it, I pretty much do it all myself. Well, yeah, I do it all myself, except for the occasional bits where my girlfriend helps me. I realize that I'm just talking forever now. I guess if you guys are bored, you'd leave. I'm doing all right, so I'm staying. I don't have a whole lot else to do. I'm getting maybe a bit hungry. But we're having fun, right? Ladies and gentlemen is 2 versus 2. No, well, I mean, maybe kind of, but ladies and gentlemen is like more like 4 versus 4. And it's a cool team game, but I wouldn't necessarily play it with parents. But and it's kind of a quirky game. Like ladies and gentlemen is kind of a game that I've got, and I keep it because I think when you play it, it can be really great, but it's not the kind of game I would play often. Like maybe once a year, if that, because it's quite a lot of setup for what you get, and it kind of requires you to get into it, and so not everyone would want that. And so Captain Sonar is a better kind of 4 versus 4 team game that I would play more regularly, if that makes sense. Stuffed Fables, yeah, that sounds like an interesting game. No Doctor Who, you've lost your citizenship. Yeah, I know, right? And yeah, I'm watching Matt Smith in The Crown, which is probably loses me points. What about Supernatural? I've never actually watched Supernatural. There's just so many American TV shows that people recommend, and I've watched loads of them, and some and then some I've tried and not liked, and some I just never got around to trying. And Supernatural, I mean, is that still going? Like, yeah, that is super popular, that show. Harry Potter, do I like that? No, I don't really like Harry Potter, sorry. I've not read any of the books, and I could go on a big long talk about it, but I specifically don't really like stuff with magic, because I like to, if I'm having like a fantastical world, I want there to be rules to a certain extent. So examples that I would give are like a zombie thing. I can get into something with zombies because there are very specific rules about how zombies work, and often I think there is maybe sometimes they're making a point about, so The Walking Dead might be about like how humans would survive in the apocalypse, right? So we all turn on each other, or we all, you get to see the worst of humanity come out, right? And I'm not saying The Walking Dead is a perfect example of zombie stuff, but the idea is strong in my mind. And something like True Blood was, there were specific rules about vampires and how they worked. And I like that it had a twist on it. And then it was making political statements about drug addiction, and then also about equality and kind of discrimination against like minority groups. And so I like that for a bit, at least. And then in it, True Blood started adding all these extra stuff, and that's where I kind of lost it. There are situations where I like these kind of things, but I like it to be making a point, generally about humanity or that kind of thing, and I like it to have strict rules. And magic is the specific thing where anything can happen, generally. And I know people in the past have recommended me specific, I think it's the Patrick Rothfuss stuff, where there are rules to the magic or something. And so that's why I don't like Star Wars, because it's just anything happens in Star Wars, and same with Star Trek a bit. But I do love something like Moon or Battlestar Galactica is a prime example of something that's very geeky and it's sci-fi, but it has these rules. Here are these Cylons. This is how they work. And it even tells you the rules at the start of the show. And I can really get into that. And then again, it's making, at the time, it was making, I don't know about comments, but it was a parable of terrorism and suicide bombing and things like that. And so that's what resonates with me. And because for me, good TV, films, books, it's all about the human story. And so I like Battlestar Galactica because I care about the characters. And in Star Wars, I'm sure the characters are great, but there's so much time spent on just all the action that I don't get invested enough in the characters. You can definitely say that. By the way, that is a criticism of Battlestar Galactica as well. And I kind of zone out when they do all the Vipers and whatever, but whatever. I'll be probably moving into another apartment. How can I take care of my board game collection? Yeah, it's tricky. I moved, and you just need boxes and you've got to pack them really tight, and it's fairly hard work. I don't think, like, I didn't need to bubble wrap them or anything like that. Like, you just got to fit them into the boxes nice and snugly and they'll be protected, as long as you use like those kind of proper moving boxes. And it was fine. Like, I don't think anything got damaged in the move. So that's good. Have you tried D&D? I know you like dislike fantasy, but it really can have any setting you want. It's fantastic if you like to role play. I've never tried D&D, and I would love to try D&D. And it's one of sort of my, not regrets, but I'm really sad that as a kid, I was never exposed to it. Like, nobody ever invited me to play D&D, and I didn't even know it existed. And then you grow up and you watch something like Stranger Things, and you're like, oh, wow, like that would have been so much fun to play D&D as a kid. And I'm still yet to play it. And that's partly just because I'm just playing board games all the time. But what I have played is some indie RPGs, like these storytelling ones like Fiasco and a few others. And I think they're really cool. But I think role-playing games are very group dependent for me. I want to be with people that I want to enjoy this story with. Whereas a board game, it's less demanding of that. And so I would absolutely love to play role-playing games with some of my best friends and really get into it. But it's a time thing, and it's being able to get those friends together and all of that. It's just loads of reasons why I haven't done it yet. But yeah, I think that I would probably like D&D, but there might be other systems that I would prefer. And I would love to do like a Game of Thrones themed role-playing thing. Absolutely, that would be amazing. And I did try it once, but I tried to learn the rules myself, and it was with people that had never role-played, and it just didn't really work. It was just too complicated. But I would love to do that if someone was going to like run it for me. Something like that. Who's more handsome, actual or Matthew Jude? Is that a question for me? I'll say Matthew Jude. He's a lot younger than me, or at least I think he is. He looks younger than me. The little live button on YouTube will keep attracting new viewers. I've been here for only the past 15 minutes or so. If you stay live as long as you have viewers, you might be here for a long time. Yeah, that is probably true. And I think some of the names that were here early on have sort of like dropped out, and they've got new names popping up, or maybe they've run out of questions. What are some British Christmas traditions we don't know about besides the crackers with the paper crowns? That's a good question, because I don't know what American Christmas traditions are, but we often have party poppers, which I suppose are more of a New Year's thing, you know, with the banger in but we would tend to have like one of them each at the Christmas table along with the crackers. And the crackers, if you don't know, you've got the paper hat, and then you've got a joke in them, and then you've got like a toy of some kind, kind of like a Kinder Surprise, well, not really, or something like some bit of tat. So like you get nail clippers and puzzles and magnets and bottle open. You wouldn't get a bottle opener. That would be far too useful. Pencil sharpener, something like that. What other traditions? It's generally a tradition to go out to the pub on Christmas Eve, or it used to be like back home, like meet up with all my friends. I'm sure you guys do that though. I'm sure that you guys have midnight mass. So it's not something that I tend to do, but people go to church at midnight on Christmas Eve, and like there's a a religious ceremony or whatever, and you sing hymns and whatnot, carols, I guess. I don't know. I mean, maybe some other British people that are in the chat can remind me of some stuff, because, I suppose all the food stuff. So like a Christmas dinner is, well, we have mince pies. So you've got, these are like pastry pies. They're sweet, and they have like raisins and sultanas and other dried fruits generally soaked in alcohol. And they're amazing. I love them, especially homemade ones. And then Christmas pudding is sort of similar. And this is something you have after Christmas dinner. You would generally cover it in brandy or something like that and light it on fire, and let the alcohol and that is something that if you've made it yourself over kind of weeks or months, it's dried fruit and a bunch of other stuff, suet, I think, and flour, and you soak it in alcohol. Some people do. And it sort of ages over months and gets better tasting. And then Christmas cake, which is also quite similar, is effectively a fruit cake with like hard white icing on the top that is made to look like snow. And that's really nice. I love all of that. And then Christmas dinner, we would tend to have turkey. Cranberry sauce, I think, is more of an American thing that we've maybe adopted. And so we've adopted American things for sure. You have pigs in blankets, which are pigs wrapped in bacon. We like to have mashed swede. Obviously, you've got roast potatoes, carrots, roast parsnips. You might have red cabbage. Damn it. I'm forgetting stuff. Oh, stuffing. Absolutely. I love stuffing. Ah, man, I'm forgetting stuff. Oh, bread sauce. I don't know if you guys have bread sauce, but it's like a creamy sauce that's made with, you got cloves and onion and some other spices, and you make it with breadcrumbs and milk, and it's just this thick stuff that you have with turkey. And I only had it relatively recent, like maybe in the last sort of 5 to 8 Christmases or whatever. I didn't have it as a kid, but I love it. John likes nothing. Now he'll say he likes sports and lose the rest of them. I don't really like sports. Maybe I don't like anything. No, I love loads of things. I love loads of TV and film and books, but I guess I just have specific tastes. I'm not really into sports that much. I like to play sports here and there, and I used to be into football, like soccer, but now I'm not really. Well, I'm not at all. Sorry, I spoke for ages about Christmas. I could talk about Christmas forever, and now there's so many questions. Okay, so I've been in 2 minds whether to get Sushi Go to play with the family this Christmas. Just ordered Consulting Detective instead. That's me hiding in the man cave with a bottle of brandy instead. Yeah, it's tricky to know, and it can be a bit daunting because, you're kind of putting yourself out there, and often people can kind of shout it down, or they don't really. I totally get it that you're you're having to be a little bit brave, albeit in a slightly, we talk about bravery, but and then people can be dismissive of it because maybe they want to do something else, and they don't really appreciate that they're kind of pissing on your bonfire or whatever. But yeah, so I totally understand people that don't want to try, and obviously it depends on your family. You watch something like Stranger Things and hate it probably. No, I like the first season of Stranger Things, and the second season hasn't really gripped me. Name a game. That was brilliantly done. Name a game that you've played that has very sharp components. Wow, you put me on the spot there. I don't know. Oh, I tell you what, I played the Twilight Imperium 3 and those War Suns, and having to get all those things off the plastic sprues, that was a nightmare. And I swear I cut my hands a couple of times on that. So that's my answer. Have you tried Game of Thrones board game? Yes, I've played it a whole bunch of times, and I really like it, but I haven't played it in ages now. And I think it's awesome as like an experience, as a negotiation game. But when we used to play, I used to play it with like really good friends and play it for like 6 hours, and I just don't get to play that so much anymore, and the friends aren't as available. And so I think you need to play it with people that you like and the people that are gonna like it and not get upset because there's lots of backstabbing. So I think it's a really, really cool game. I kind of wish that they would release like a shorter version of it, or one that's a bit less intense, so I could get a more regular taste of it. But I think it's a game that I'll keep for a very, very long time and play very occasionally. And it's funny because like I talk about a lot of light games on the channel, and I think people have me down as that because I don't like heavy Euro games. But I do like heavy thematic games, and Game of Thrones is one of them. What got you into board games? A couple of things, really. I was working from home, and I was looking for a reason to meet up with people socially without having to spend loads of money, because I didn't have lots of money, and also without having to get drunk, which is what British people basically do well. And so, and a friend of mine, his dad has played board games since the 80s, and he's got a big collection, and he happened to live in London at the time, and we got together and we played London by Martin Wallace, which I didn't really like because it's a bit of a Euro game, but I might like it a bit more now. But I just really loved getting together in a pub and chatting and playing games. And so that Christmas, my girlfriend got me Ticket to Ride, and my friend got me another game called Samarkand Route to Riches. And it all just went from there. But I was already kind of researching them. I was really excited about it. I was looking on Board Game Geek before I even owned my first modern board game. And then I guess because I didn't have loads of money, but I wanted to kind of like, and then it really just snowballed from there. Thanks for hosting a D&D game in Vienna. I'm actually flying to Vienna this Christmas, but I'm going to Bratislava for New Year's Eve to see friends. But I can't stop and play D&D. We have mistletoe, yes. Although I don't have any now. I should get some mistletoe. Because, man, I really need to get some mistletoe because I'm having a Christmas party tomorrow. Rules reading absolutely kills me. How do you learn or take notes on rules well enough to teach a game? Oh, yeah, I don't know. I hate it as well. And I'm not perfect at it. Because sometimes I'm like tired and I'll fall asleep whilst reading the rules. I don't always love watching videos because I get distracted. And I think figgy pudding, by the way, is the Christmas pudding that I was talking about earlier. But yeah, so I don't really have top tips on rules. Like, I think you get better at it over time, like the more games you play, but it's not that helpful. The ultimate British Christmas traditions are eating too much, getting drunk, and falling asleep watching crap TV. Yes, all of those things. Mashed swede. Swede is a vegetable. It's a root vegetable, and it's, I guess, a tiny bit like carrots or celeriac or potatoes or squash, maybe, in the sense that you kind of chop it up into cubes and you boil it and then you mash it like you would mash a potato. And I really love it. It's one of my favorite parts of like a roast dinner. Explain taking the piss or taking the piss out of. Man, I've been here for I think 2 hours now. I really need to stop soon. Taking the piss out of something means like you're making fun of something, basically. So yeah, that's it. And if you want to be less rude, you would say taking the mickey out of something. My 5-year-old Loves messing with the components of Ticket to Ride. Should I get a Ticket to Ride first journey? I don't know. I haven't played it, I'm afraid. What is a chaff? Like that girl is a... Oh, you mean chav? Not chaff. Chav is kind of a derogatory term because originally it was an acronym for council, housed, and violent. So it's basically like a classist term about poor people that lived in council houses, implying that they were kind of antisocial or whatever. But I think it's one of these ones that's kind of evolved a little bit while still being offensive, and people just use it to mean... I think if I was to try and describe what most people would say is someone that's, if they were using the word chav, it's someone that kind of like, yeah, of a lower class, but not always, but someone that maybe like dresses a lot in tracksuits, or like that, like someone that like you might describe like as a boy racer who has like spends loads of time on their car and drives around blaring out like really loud music. Someone that's like maybe gets drunk a lot. I don't know. It's not necessarily a nice term, but I think different people mean different things. Chuffed, yeah, that. If you don't know, chuffed means like happy, or like pleased with something. Oh man, I'm gonna try and race through. I'm gonna try and finish soon, right? This is crazy. Let's try and do a quick fire round. So if you're still asking questions, ask me multiple choice questions or yes or no questions. But I'm gonna try and do the rest of these. So no more normal questions that have long answers, please, or otherwise I'll be here forever. Because I'm having a good time and I want to ask people questions. I haven't had a chance to play Warring Colonies, Dead of Winter, but I do have it and I want to play that. A Yorkshire pudding is another crucial aspect of a British roast dinner that a lot of people have at Christmas, although traditionally you wouldn't. You would have it with beef, and it's made from pancake batter. I don't know if it's exactly the same as pancake batter. I guess it probably isn't, but yeah, that's probably not right, but it's made from a batter, so it's got eggs and flour in it, and it's a kind of cup type thing that you kind of have gravy in, and it just soaks up the gravy in, and it's another carbohydrate to add to your Christmas dinner. What is the heaviest couples game that you enjoy? Play mostly with my girlfriend and beginning to feel the need for something heavier. That's a good question. I mean, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is kind of intense, like it's longer, but I guess it's not more complicated. So I would say that's one of the heavier ones that we like. But we tend not to play heavier games together, but we do play heavier games with other people. So I don't know, really. I don't think... Oh, maybe like Pursuit of Happiness. That's a good Euro game that's a bit heavier than the ones I might put in my list, because it's not short. You know, it might take like an hour or slightly more, but it's involved and it tells a story. Yeah, so let's say that. Yeah, chav is probably equivalent to white trash. That's probably fairly accurate. Celeriac is another root vegetable that tastes a bit like celery. It's got kind of a watery vibe. It's quite an acquired taste, but some people make it palatable by mixing it with like cream. But I think if you mix anything with cream, it's going to taste good. So yeah, I wouldn't highly recommend celeriac. I don't mind it though. Do you have any good places to find people to play board games within London? Yes, I do. Find London on Board on meetup.com. It's the biggest board game group in the world. It's what I go to. It's on every single night of the week. It's in central London. And yeah, I would highly you absolutely should check it out. Is fag still slang that is used for cigarette? Yes, it is. I mean, I don't use it, but I think that people that smoke do generally. It's just idiotic Americans asking what basic things are now. Maybe. CV, any tips to emphasize the storytelling aspect? I get stuck on the engine building and feel like I'm missing half the fun. Not really. I know what you mean. Like, I don't think it's like, I think there are some games that you tell a story with the game and some that kind of tell an organic story, and it's like whether you pick up on it or not. And I don't think that CV is like that strong in telling a story, and it does come down to the person. And sometimes, like, I've had it where people take a long time in that game and it kind of kills it for me. I think Pursuit of Happiness also probably tells a slightly nicer story for that type of game. Yeah, I don't know. I can see why you're struggling with it. And it's kind of almost like the mood I might be in. And I think with 2 players, it's better because there's less downtime and it takes less long. I probably would. I'm not sure I would play CV again with more people, because depending on the people. Can you only just arrive? Can you do live Q&As later in the evening or at the weekend, please? Yeah, I'll try and mix it up. I have done them in the evening in the past. It was just the availability today. Eurogame or war game? I'd probably prefer a war game, but more of the lighter war games. It really comes down to the Eurogame as well. 2 hours or 6 hours best evening game length? Well, 2 hours, but really less than that. Like, I would rather play like a few 1 hour games. It depends on the game though. Like, you know, when a game feels like it's outstaying its welcome. Are you playing video games as well? Yes. I don't play them as much as I used to because the channel just takes up so much time. But like, so much of my free time is just doing the channel. But I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn at the moment, which I quite like. And I used to play, like, I loved Mass Effect. I play a lot of FIFA. I like all the Uncharted games, The Last of Us, lots of kind of rich single player story games. Life is Strange is another one that I really liked, that kind of thing. I don't really play online multiplayer. Through the Ages or Twilight Struggle? I've only played Twilight Struggle, and I would probably say neither, but I haven't played Through the Ages. I should try it sometime, but I hear stories of, like, I have friends that play it and it takes them like 6 to 8 hours. But I'm sure that's with like 4 players or whatever. Maybe I'll try the app sometime, but it doesn't interest me that much. Is trick taking a genre slowly dying? Maybe. It doesn't interest. Trick taking is not really that exciting to me, so maybe. Oh my God, I bought Monopoly for my 7-year-old nephew as his mother asked us for it. I feel so bad about it. What should I do? Marketing says it's good for calculating. Oh, that's sad. I don't know. Look, I think kids still enjoy Monopoly, but I just think there are more exciting games. So maybe, hopefully it doesn't put him off board games forever, and maybe you could buy him something that's a bit better next year, you know, and like, you know, it doesn't have to be the only board game. Have I been to San Diego? I have, a very long time ago. I was probably like 15 or 16 years old. I went with my dad, and I was there for maybe like a day. We went to LA and we went to Las Vegas and a couple of other places. And yeah, San Diego was great. It was hot and the beach was nice, but I don't really remember much about it. Play Monopoly isn't a death sentence. John is terrible at concise answers. Yes, I am. Favorite beer at the moment? I like, I drink a lot of Brewdog Punk IPA. I wouldn't necessarily say it's my favorite. I like a lot of craft pale ales or IPAs, which is, I'm very cliched, I'm sure. I like Lagunitas. There are a whole bunch that I like. None especially stand out. Yeah. Nobody, what happened to the quick fire questions? Unless they're missing. It was supposed to be yes or no's or and/ors. You all just completely ignored me. Play the Surge. Okay, I've never heard of that. Do you have a favorite sweet? Do you mean like dessert or because, like, I don't know if you're American, because you might say candy. If I was to say sweet, I would be talking about candy. And I don't really have a favorite sweet because I get, you know, like I like Haribo and stuff. But in terms of dessert, I love banoffee pie is probably my favorite. I love key lime pie, apple pie, cherry pie, lemon meringue pie, creme brulee, treacle tart, sticky toffee pudding, all of them. I love all of those. But yeah, candy, I don't really have. I like chocolate a bit more than sweets or candy. Netrunner or Lord of the Rings LCG. I would go Netrunner, but I've only I don't play either. But I think Netrunner is a cool game that I just didn't really get into. Dominion is a more in-depth couple game. Yeah, I think so. Like I don't love deck building games that much, but we played Dominion once at a cafe, and I think it was like, I think it's a cool game, but it just wasn't enough for me. And so I think if you don't care about the theme and if you like deck building games, but maybe I guess you never played one before, I think totally could work as a good couples game. Have you played Codenames Duet? Yes, I have. I haven't played it 2-player. I've only played it 2 versus 2, and I think it was cool. I need to play it again 2-player, and it's just, maybe I'll play it this Christmas, actually. CCG or LCG, I would definitely go with LCG, although I play neither, just because I don't like the idea of the collectible thing. It doesn't appeal to me at all. Like, I find it just really frustrating. Favorite color to play as? I don't really have one. But if I had to pick, I'd go blue. I quite like purple or like pink sometimes because it's like different. I'm a bit bored of like the traditional colors. And then if somebody else picks blue, which they often do, I tend to go green because nobody picks green, but whatever, you know, I generally don't care. Fruit with chocolate or not. So yeah, I quite like Cadbury's fruit and nut, like anything. If you mean like chocolate with like raisins in, then yes. Yeah, I like that stuff. Ever played Magic the Gathering? No, I haven't. I'd love to see you at London on board. Definitely, you should definitely join. If anybody lives in London and hasn't gone to London board, you should. It's sad. Carcassonne with house rules or not? Yes, I like the idea of you get your tile at the end of your turn. That's cool. I haven't tried any other house rules. Chicken or beef? Probably go beef because I love beef burgers, but I do eat a lot of chicken. I love them both. Favorite IP? Well, I mean, in terms of a big IP, Game of Thrones, but I would love board games on like more niche IPs that I love because Game of Thrones is covered. So I love the TV show ER. Like I would love something with that IP. Veronica Mars would be one. And of course, these are all tiny things that nobody's ever going to bother with. Black Sails, the pirate show. I think that would be a great IP to have a game around that Gale Force 9 was supposed to make, but they didn't. So it's just all my favorite TV shows, really. Seven Wonders versus Seven Wonders Duel. I don't especially like either of them that much, but I would go with Seven Wonders Duel. Codenames Duel versus Seven Wonders Duel versus Zulareto Duel. I would go with Codenames, but only because I haven't played Zulareto Duel. 8-person party game or split the group. I often would play an 8-person party game. It's trickier when you get beyond 8 people. But yeah, I think I love an 8 I think 8 is great for party game. It depends what you're looking to play. Short Q&As or never-ending Q&As. Oh, never-ending ones. What's your top game that you love but doesn't get enough love from your friends and people you meet? Sons of Anarchy definitely is the one that I just think should have more love in the world. But I say that a lot. But people that have played it have liked it. I tend not to like games that everyone doesn't like because that kind of bums me out. Favorite American food? Well, I love burgers. It's like probably my favorite food of all time. And I love barbecue food. And I love buffalo wings. Oh man, I'm making myself salivate. So I love American food. Like just if it's like really, if it's well-made stuff, I really, really love American food. Pickup and delivery or area control? Probably area control. Are you old enough to have watched ER? Where did you see that? Yeah, I'm old. I used to watch it as a kid, but then I got really back into it. They showed it in the UK, and I watched. We did this thing where we watched. It was like we watched one episode a day for the whole year, pretty much. It works out slightly less than that. but we were basically watching 5 episodes a week, and it was amazing. It was just, I'm going to do that again sometime because ER is amazing. I love it. Mad Max or Indiana Jones? I've not watched the new Mad Max. I guess I'd go Indiana Jones, the old classic ones. Shorts versus long pants. I like shorts, but I would generally wear trousers. It's too cold in Britain. Favorite Taylor Swift album? That is a great question. I'm so glad that you asked that. It's definitely not the recent one. That's rubbish. It would be, I don't know. I think probably my favorite one is the second one. I think it's called 15. So the first album, yeah, I think it's called that. Or is it called Fearless? No, maybe the first album's called 15. I'm checking it out now. This is an important question. You've got to get to the bottom of these things. Because I think I'm delirious with hunger now. Okay, so the first album, yeah, so I'm going to rank them now. So Fearless, yeah, Fearless is the best album, okay? Then second best is Speak Now. Third best is Red. Fourth best is Taylor Swift, the first one. Fifth best is 1989, and then the other one I probably am never going to listen to it. She's completely like fallen off. I'm all about the country, the kind of pop country music, and but when I say I'm all about that, it's only Taylor Swift. I don't listen to anyone else. Okay, we got some questions here. Right, I'm going to try and race through these. Do you like playing games like Werewolf, bigger groups? I don't really play Werewolf, but I like Two Rooms and a Boom. I like Secret Hitler or The Resistance. I really like Secret Hitler, but I've only played it twice. I'm going to go for that. Rick and Morty, yay or nay? I would say sort of quite yay. I like some of Rick and Morty, but I think it's a bit, it loves itself a bit too much. I think it's a bit too, I don't think it doesn't connect to me that much, but I think it's got some really clever ideas. And I don't know, I don't think the characters are like that amazing. But so yeah, I've watched a lot of it. I think it's cool. Iron Maiden or Judas Priest, British metal? I have no opinion on that, I'm afraid. Ideal holiday destination? Ooh, I'd love to do a road trip of America. Hardback or paperback? If you mean books, I guess I'd go paperback. If you mean the games, well, I haven't played hardback. Paperback or Letter Tycoon? I go paperback, but I do really like Letter Tycoon. Anime, yes or no? That's a definite no. Pandemic or Burgle Brothers? Oh, Burgle Brothers is amazing, but probably Pandemic because it's just such a classic. I've not played Gloomhaven. My accent is South, basically, like just, I think you call it Estuary English. Pandemic Legacy Season 1 or 2. I haven't played 2, so 1. Favorite ice cream flavor? Chocolate. Best music to play in the background of a really intense long board game session? I don't know. Let's say Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift or Kanye West? Definitely go with Taylor Swift, although I like early Kanye West. App-driven games or no? I think they have their place, but I'm starting to get a bit fed up with my phone getting filled up with the apps. Just picked up Stone Age. Have you played it? No, I haven't. I really want to. Black Mirror, yay or nay? Yay, although I haven't watched the more recent Netflix series. Twilight Zone or Outer Limits? I don't really know either of them. What is the best game that is unavailable in the UK without importing it? I played Ultimate Showdown the other day, which I got from America, and I really liked that. It was a party game. And then there's some German ones. Man, Quinto, I think you can't get here brilliantly. So there's not that many, but there's one or two. Yay or nay versus yes or no. Let's go yay or nay. Dogs or cats? I don't know. I'm mixed on those. And current thoughts on Seventh Continent? Yeah, I talked about that earlier. Okay, I'm going to go now. So thanks for all the questions, guys. I had a load of fun. Thanks for all of you that stayed for so long. And yeah, I'll see you on another one of these. Have a great Christmas, everyone. Bye.